Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. I am your host, Brett McCollum, and I'm here today with Matt Buchalski. And today we're going to be talking about building businesses in commercial real estate. Before we do, guys, at Investor Fuel, we help real estate investors, service providers, and real estate entrepreneurs to 2 to 5x their businesses to allow them to build the businesses they've always wanted and allow them to live the lives they've always dreamed of. Without further ado, Matt, how are you, man?
Good, Brett. Good morning. How are you?
Man, doing good. Thanks for hanging out with me today, man. This is going to be, I'm genuinely excited. It's going to be a good show.
I hope so. I am too. That's cool.
Hey, there we go.
We have things in common. Way to start the show.
I know, right? Yeah. So we got to catch up a little bit ourselves, before the show and everything like that. Can you do me a favor? Let's kind of back up, rewind a bit, and catch people up to speed a little bit. Who's Matt Buchalski?
So I live in North Dallas, Texas. Been here 10 years, relocated from New York on a reload package from a tech company I was working for at the time. 46, father of 2, soon to be 3. I'm getting married to my gorgeous and wonderful fiance here in about 12 weeks. Like I said, grew up in New York, have been in sales literally since a week after I graduated high school, making cold calls at stock brokerage firms, and have been, very blessed in my career to work for some amazing companies and build some amazing businesses. I am an aspiring home chef.
There you
go. In between work, you can probably catch me watching like Beat Bobby Flay or Chopped or one of these other kind of low attention span, but yet incredibly enticing cooking shows. I literally love to cook. I do it as often as possible. I'm a gym rat. I'm at the gym every day, no matter what. I love spending time with the kids. I love to read, and I love to talk real estate.
Dude, that's awesome. So, a couple things.
Shoot.
Thing one, before we get into some of the other stuff, there's no shame in the chop game. Okay, listen, it's on repeat in our home, and now our children, albeit they're younger, when they go outside to play. Do you know what they're playing? They're playing Chopped, but they're grabbing stuff from like outside, mulch and leaves and all these things, and they're pretending to make like in your ingredient basket we have, and then they just make up stuff. Kid you not.
That's awesome.
And it's routine, And the next thing is, I don't think I ever want to arm wrestle you in real life. I have a little kid, but dude, no, that's super cool, man. Like, yeah. So, you mentioned out of high school, like right out of the gate into sales. Is that right?
Yeah, right out of the.
What were you doing?
Cold calling, Dun & Bradstreet leads to high net worth individuals. Like,
okay,
positioning. There was a cold callers, and then there was brokers. Right, you couldn't sell stocks until you had your Series 7 and 63. So I was just generating leads for the broker that I got aligned to, making 300 phone calls a day.
Yeah.
No voicemails, just super high volume, trying to get 10 leads a week for the guy that I worked for at the time. And man,
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
That business gets a bad rap, but I'll tell you that there is a lot to be said for having that have been my first job. Like, I learned the value of peer-to-peer feedback. I learned the value of making a lot of touches on a day-to-day basis, being enticing in the first 30 seconds of your engagement with a prospect or someone that you're meeting with or having coffee with. So many things still follow me to this day, and
Sure.
Definitely it's what turned out to be an unscrupulous experience. Didn't realize that when I had first started, but tremendous experience nonetheless.
Yeah, dude. So 18, you're calling high net worth people.
Yeah.
Did you always have or is it more blissful, like ignorance? Like, I didn't know, because talking to high net worth people at 18, when you've not done anything in your life, you know what I mean? It's like, who am I talking to? Was it just young ignorance, or is it like, no, or was it just extreme confidence? Like, how were you able to do that?
Yeah. Great question. I think there's definitely some limiting beliefs that you have to get over early. But at the end of the day, one of the things that they really, drilled into us is that the person on the other end of the phone puts their socks on every day just like we do, right? And quite frankly, they probably even have more interest in making the right investments and diversifying their portfolio. One of the most important things I learned at that stage in my career was, don't think about the person on the other end of the phone having the same finances as you do. And so when you're calling people and you're presenting an opening trade, I got my license before I was 19. When you're presenting an opening trade to the tune of $100,000 or $150,000 over the phone, right? It's important that you act as if and sound very confident. And that's one of the things that they really trained us on every day, and it works.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, I mean, and I think those are like the building blocks of, I know me at 18, I had no idea what I wanted. I had no idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was still playing baseball. I went to college, played ball, did that. But that's what I thought I was going to do forever. Like, no, I didn't have any real professional aspirations other than I'm going to play sports forever, and to start getting the experience of real life, what a real business looks like at that age, man, and looking back in hindsight, I'm sure that was invaluable, really cool.
Totally. And I think one of the things that's played out, so that was really my first opportunity in my career to raise money, right?
Yeah.
Calling people and asking people for money over the phone. I went from that, I moved on to collections, and I went to, several different other, opportunities in my career. But what's interesting is, I think, and still to this day, as we syndicate deals, as we raise money, as we, find investors and other things, I feel like there's two main categories of investors, right? There's a group of investors that want to know that you have a track record, that you are credible, that you can play in the same pond as them, right? And then there's definitely some investors that appreciate the up and comer, right? Maybe they have a little bit of a wider risk tolerance, but they appreciate the hustle. Maybe they have some money, but they're just too busy to deploy it properly. And you come in, and while you may not have the same finance or financial profile or success levels as them, they're willing to give you a shot because you bring the hustle. And so I think it's important that you identify which of those markets or which of those baskets you gravitate to most, and then stick to it. And that's one of the things that I learned early in that business. Obviously, it was a lot more of the former example, but something that has continued to play out in my career over time.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
Yeah. So you're doing this for a little while, different sales gigs, more or less, along the way. How did you end up landing into the real estate space? Because that was, when was that, by the way? Because I know I'm trying to remember what we talked about.
I bought my first single family in 2016.
Okay.
And so the way that happened is when I lived in New York, I would put together these annual tuna trips, right? We'd charter this gorgeous boat and a bunch of us would go out overnight tuna fishing, and it wasn't cheap, right?
Right.
And there was this guy who got invited to a friend of mine, and we were talking on the on the trip, the drive down to New Jersey, and I found out that he owned 50 single family homes on the east end of Long Island.
Wow.
And that was 10 years ago, right? Like, so I can only imagine what those things are worth now. And we had a chat on the boat. He told me exactly what he did and why he did it, and changes that he had made in the business. And I was just enamored. He had it down to a formula. And on the way, after the trip, we had a great trip. He says, hey, if you're interested in getting started, I can put you in touch with a broker of mine and see if he's got anything for you to buy. And I took him up on it. A couple of months later, the phone rings, and this guy, Mark, says, hey, I got a property for you. It's perfect. You should buy it. So I sent my mom out to take a look, and, she didn't really know what she was looking at, but she called me. She's like, this is so motivating. I'm so energized. You should definitely do this. I'm like, done, let's go. And I bought my first property living in Texas. That was all the way out of the east end of Long Island, and it's been pretty much nonstop since.
Wow. Dude, so you're running the charter trip. Was that a Texas thing you were doing, or was it a New York connection that you like?
No, that was a New York thing. I had been doing it for 6 or 8 years before I moved, and that was probably the last one I had done, just because life gets in the way. I started to have kids and stuff, but it's weird too, because at the same time as that fishing trip, I was working for a big tech company, and I had like an $80 million quota or $70 million quota. I forgot what it was. And then one day we were on the earnings call, and we did 25 billion in revenues that year.
Wow.
And I said to myself, I'm busting my butt to do a great job at this company. And whether I hit or I miss my quota, and I very rarely miss, my business is a rounding error in the grand scheme of things, right? So how do I take my skills, my passion, my extra bandwidth, the finances that I had gathered at the time, and really do something for myself so that, I could be my own boss at one point, and one day achieve this, concept of financial freedom. And shortly after I had that kind of light bulb moment, or realizing that I wanted more, I crossed paths with Pete. We had the fishing trip, and it was just kind of like, timing. In life, I think you start to see these signals that something is starting to line up, and it did. And I'm so thankful for Pete and that conversation that we had on that fishing trip.
Yeah. So that's perfect. I think that's how it goes too. It's the idea of when you go and buy a vehicle, you didn't see, like I bought a, whatever it is, doesn't matter, and then you don't ever see those vehicles until on the road until you bought yours. Now you see them everywhere, kind of thing, right? You start to see these things. Like, I don't know, I forget what the psychologist called it that, but yeah, I think that happens a lot. Is you made the decision to do this, and now you hear it everywhere. You hear you hear a lot of real estate investors like, how did you get your start, Matt? And so many people, a lot of them come back to Rich Dad Poor Dad. So they read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and now they're like, I hear about real estate everywhere. I'm like, dude, it's been going on this whole time.
Yeah. Where do you live?
Yeah.
Somebody owns the place that you live if it's not you, right? And I think it's also really interesting, Brett. I was at a speaking engagement over the weekend, and what I'm what I find very interesting about real estate, and this is a pattern that's gone on now several times over the last 8 or 9 years.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Is when you're focused on doing a deal,
Yeah.
right? You become so excited, and people ask you what's going on in your life, and you talk to them about it. And I feel like you put good things out into the ether, and then sometimes things go back, right? So Pete put me on, got me connected with this broker. I bought that property in April of 2016.
Right.
He gave me a formula. You buy in these zip codes up to this price point. You do Section 8, so on and so forth. And I was like, does this really only work in New York? And I started to take that same criteria and look in neighborhoods in Texas. And the rent profiles were a little different, and that's okay. But so are the price profiles. 90
Right.
days after I bought my first one, I bought my second one, much, much closer to home down here
Right.
in Garland, Texas. And every time, I can tell you that, not every time, but 5 times in the last 8 or 9 years when I bought one deal, I bought a second deal inside of 90 days.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to ask you that. So how long were you investing in the single family space before you kind of made some shifts?
It was actually like less than a year.
No way.
Yeah. I was listening to Bigger Pockets. I started to listen to some other podcasts, and there was an 8-unit that was available a couple miles west of Jerry World, AT&T Stadium here in Arlington. And so I made a blind offer on it, got declined. Seller came back to us like 3 weeks later and said the buyer dropped out, lost their earnest money. They're willing to take the earnest money off the top of the price. They just want to get out. Do you want it? And so I had gone to take a look, and I realized it was going to be a heavy lift, and it was going to take every dime that I had at the time to acquire this property and then rehab it and bring it up to par. And I remember an episode of Bigger Pockets. Brandon Turner said 50% of a deal is better than 100% of no deal. And so I was, getting friendly with my buddy Mike, who our kids were in daycare at the time, and we had lunch one day. And long story short, we bought that one, cut our teeth on it. We ended up doing a handful of single families after that, but just because we're kind of buying up the block on this certain street in Richardson. But ever since then, once we got that conveyor belt going and that rent roll going strong, we've been in multifamily since.
No way. Yeah. So let's talk about that from the beginning of your multifamily journey. Like, what was your main focus? Was it your apartments? Was it quad stuff? Like, what was your start?
Yeah. So it was usually larger. Well, I don't want to say it was larger multifamily than single families that we were used to, right? So the first one was an 8-unit. Then we bought up half the street on single families. Then our next deal was 4 units. This was in COVID, the early stages of COVID. And then it was a 16, an 18, an 8, a 24, a 32. And then we recently bought a 100-space RV storage facility south of Florida. Wow. So, we've wanted to grow the portfolio. We've done so through transaction volume, Brett. What's interesting about investing in North Texas is there's, C-class products, 60s, 70s, maybe even early 80s. Then there's very little 90s product because of banking conditions at that point in time. And then you jump to 2000s product. And when you jump to 2000s product, those tend to be much larger deals, right? 150, 200 units, 300 units. And especially over the last 18, 24 months, we haven't wanted to get too far over our skis and do a big raise as capitals become more and more difficult to raise. So we're kind of staying in our sweet spot, but we've definitely shifted our focus to focus just on, 70 units and up, so that 70 to 100 units where it's probably a $4 or $5 million raise, that's right in our strike zone right now.
Yeah, I was literally just going to ask you, like, so bringing it up to speed with the rate changes, interest rate change, because that's a lot of people in the multifamily space right now. Like, they bought them in, let's say it was 2020, 2021, right? And they have a 5-year horizon on them, and then they go to do their, refis and all. It's like now the rates are, 7 and change, and they bought them at 4, and has that impacted you guys in any way? And if so, how have you navigated that? Like, what's that look like?
For the most part, it has not. But, the one time it did, it was very, very stressful. So we bought a 16 unit and 18 unit back in Q4 of 2021.
Okay. Yep.
We bought it on bridge debt. It's 60s product. We put $1 million worth of CapEx into the 34 units, interior and exterior.
How long was the bridge?
It was 2 years with 2 1-year extensions.
Okay.
So we got through the 2-year term. We extended for 1 year. No problem. The lender was like, they're like, just send us a copy of your insurance and send us the 1-point extension fee. No problem. Fast forward to the second 1-year extension. They originally said that they would give us the extension, but the rate was going to go from like 5.5 or 5.75, 5.75 up to 11.5.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And then we appealed and said, what's different this year than it was last year? The asset's performing, right? We're on time with all our payments, blah, blah, blah. And so we got an email from them. Good news. Leadership has said they'll honor your original rate. Just send us, in proof of insurance, appraisal, all that stuff. Then at the last minute, they retract that and say, whoops, sorry. We've taken another look at this. Leadership has had a change in policy. Your rate's going to be 11.5%. So luckily, we were already kind of knee deep in a refi as kind of our plan B. And we had to get, into some passionate conversations with the lender to give us a couple months worth of extensions. 11.5% money would have just put us out of business. Right. And long story short, we ended up closing the refi 2 days before Thanksgiving. We're like on the phone with the bond trader that day, locking in, what was a fantastic rate. It was 5.93%.
Wow. Yeah.
So we had forecasted the refi to be at 5.75. So to get 5.93 done was not that far off what our 3-year assumptions were. The difference was, though, that because lenders tightened, it was the LTV that we did not achieve what we had forecasted in the refi. So because of that, it wasn't necessarily a cash out refi, but we got it done. We got it over the finish line, and now it's history. Now we got plenty of money to get that property performing. I'm sorry?
Yeah, I said you can breathe a little bit again finally, right?
Yeah. And other than that, everything else is on long-term debt, knock on wood. And, what we have seen, though, especially in Dallas and the surrounding areas, is occupancy has dipped pretty significantly. Depending on who you talk to, occupancy's dipped anywhere from 2% to 6% with all this new supply coming online. So I think as that supply continues to get absorbed later this year, early next year, we'll start to see some rent growth come back. Hopefully, middle of 2026.
Do you think that the occupancy, do you think that's market specific, or are you seeing that more nationally, or?
I think it's market specific, and I think the areas that have seen the worst of it is because you have all the supply coming online. I think there's been
here in Florida.
I live in McKinney, and there's like 10,000 units that either have or will be delivered between 2024 and 2026. And that represents a 33% increase in the number of apartments in McKinney alone.
Yeah. Yeah, we're having that here in Florida as well. Seeing that a lot. I think it's what's so interesting to me is, like, you kind of were doing a lot of different things during the COVID run of things. And we saw Florida, Texas, Arizona grow like crazy through COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny as those are some of the three states that are taking the biggest hits right now
Yeah.
in the turn response, right? So
Yeah.
it's real interesting. So talk to me a little bit about some of because you got your irons in the fire on multiple things. I see it on your shirt. You got Ownwell going on there. Catch me up to speed on that.
Thanks. Yeah, so I had recently completed a 4-year run at one of the big property management software companies, built out an amazing organization there. And this opportunity at Ownwell, I've always really considered myself a builder, and I never really wanted to be, kind of a cog in a wheel. And so I worked at a business intelligence startup back in 2018 to 2020. And at that point, I was bitten by the opportunity to have a thumbprint on the growth of a company. But in the middle of COVID, there was really no startup opportunities available, which is why I joined that larger company that I mentioned. Ownwell has tremendous leadership team. Our CEO worked for a billionaire family office, and really saw how the rich are able to work the system and hire great people to save them money on things like property taxes, right? And our CTO, Joseph, is PhD in computer science. He's figured out how to build, LLMs and machine learning and leverage AI to help us, get the most accurate data possible, right? So we're really on the forefront of leveraging. We're a tech-first company trying to help people save money on their property taxes. And late over the summer last year, Colton and I connected, and they had this growing commercial real estate business that was just kind of happening by accident, and they really wanted to make it a focal point for the company. So we joined forces, and I'm proud to be VP of sales for the company. And every day I'm talking to owners and operators and property management companies of commercial real estate, and helping them understand what we do different in the market to help them save money on their property taxes.
Love that. Yeah, I think that's it's funny, and I don't think you'll be offended by this with your sales mind. And as you know, we talked, before the show, that's my mind too. Property taxes is not a niche that anybody really ever thinks about when you're talking about real estate, right? It's so overlooked. It's typically an afterthought, even when you're selling or buying. Nobody's thinking about taxes. Right? It's not a thing. Or that, and maybe insurance on when you're getting property. Like, nobody thinks about it when they're buying a property. I was like, oh, I forgot about the insurance. Oh, I forgot about the taxes. I think the most exciting sales opportunities, in my opinion, are those niches of places where you can fill in something that people don't even realize that they don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something at Ownwell's, what you're seeing? Like, we have a space there that we've carved out that nobody's able to compete with us on, or is it pretty competitive? What are you seeing?
Yeah, it's a great question. So look, I think there's no shortage of property tax appeal companies out there. I had been working with one group on my residential, on my home, and another group on the commercial side. That said, Brett, there's no company out there that's doing what we're doing.
Right.
And I say that with pride, and I say that because I did the homework before betting my career on Ownwell. Between we intake data from 150 different public and private data sets in order to keep track of how assessments are trending, pull and justify comps, build models in real time, monitor assessments in our target counties. And we've literally built a tech company first to help with something mundane like property taxes. On the commercial real estate side, I think it's a little different than residential property taxes. There's still a lot of folks out there that kind of scoff at the fact, yeah, it's only $1,000 a year. It takes a lot of time to do. Well, not with Ownwell. On the commercial side, property taxes are typically the number one largest expense for an operator on their T12. And if you're focused on asset management, which we all should be, right, mitigating each and every dollar on your T12 should be of the utmost importance to you, right? Like Robert Martinez from Rockstar Capital, he's always been very, very outspoken, where at a 6 cap, every dollar that you make or dollar that you save is worth 16 on the balance sheet. And one of the things that I think I'm very proud of with Ownwell is that we take a buy investors for investors type of approach. And I personally know the impact of every dollar saved on a T12.
Yep.
And I'm advocating for that for all of our clients.
Yeah, dude, that's so interesting. You say it like that too, with the fact that I do this too carries a lot of weight, right? I know in sales and the things that we do and stuff like that, being able to say I am one of you, and then you have real life examples like, yeah, we'll prove it, Matt. Like, because people want to hold your feet to the fire. They may not say it outright, but their objection is really I don't believe you.
That's You're exactly right. And what you just said, Brett, is like, I don't have a job. I don't have a career. Now I'm on a mission, right?
Yeah.
And like when I was selling big tech and I'd go talk to a CIO of a Fortune 1000 company about transforming their data center, I couldn't say, hey, Susie, CIO, check out my data center too. I have one of those with 1,000 servers in it, because I didn't, right?
Right.
What I can say, and to your point, I think this is definitely true selling with empathy, is that, hey, Brett, I'm an investor too. I have all of my assets and my partners have all our assets with this company. We're drinking our own Kool-Aid because I believe in the cause
Yep.
and believe in the mission. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. Not a lot of people get to have that opportunity in their professional career. And I'm super fortunate to say that I do.
Dude, that's incredible. And that just makes it, the pride, shows, right? When you speak, when you're there, and that translates in your conversations, I'm sure. Talk a little bit more about some of the, like, you've got Take Flight, you've got Deep Blue, like, what does that look like for you now?
Yeah. So I started Take Flight Properties with my buddy, Mike. Mike is a super smart guy. He runs global development operations for one of the big consultancies. We got to a point, we built a portfolio, or my friend Chris that I worked with 15 years ago, he kind of came on and we morphed into Take Flight Capital. And the three of us really got very, very specific about our risk profile, the types of assets we wanted to buy together, so on and so forth. And at the time, I had this really big funnel. And so I get emails from brokers, every single one of them in Texas. And so I found this deal, and I found some other guys that were interested in doing the deal with me. And so we got together, we started Deep Blue Capital. We've done some deals collectively together too, which is awesome. And so Deep Blue Capital, we started that in 2023. We acquired a student asset down in Waco. We acquired this other asset in Garland last year. We did a storage deal last year. And so out of that, we started the More Doors podcast. We're about 65 episodes in, and we've profiled some amazing investors. Zach Happenstall from Rise 48 Equity, Tony Castronovo, Gino Barbaro. We've had some life coaches on the show, Brian Mayoro from Sell Up down in Austin, Tony Robbins coach. And it's a way for us to scratch the itch and learn from others, but while giving them the limelight for an hour. And again, it's like, it's good for them, but we get so much fulfillment and learning from it that it's a great passion project.
Yeah. It's so funny. Guys, I'm sorry if I'm exposing some things that maybe you don't know yet if you're listening to this, but as a podcast host, one of the most wonderful things, and albeit it is a selfish thing, and Matt, I think you'll agree with me, is like you just said, is I learn so much more by doing this and talking with people every day. I have to get better because I'm interviewing all of you like industry titans that are doing something. And I'm like, good. Yeah, there's stuff that you don't even know about, and you think you know things.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just as much for me as it might be asking you all these questions and stuff like that and giving you that limelight, like you say. But this is just as much for me, and it's funny you said that because I'm like, yep, I totally get that feeling for sure.
Yeah, so do we. And we've had, look, I'm part of a mastermind group. I've gone to a bunch of the events, and having a weekend retreat or a weekend mastermind meeting or whatever, those are great. And I think there's great networking. There's a lot of great content. But what I have found personally, it's much easier, like if you're having an active discussion like we are now, like to zone in for an hour, right? put everything else on do not disturb. There's no room. There's no questions. There's no people sneezing, right? It's just us. You're able to like have great conversations and retain so much more.
Intentionality, man. That's it. And focus. Yeah, that's the sweet spot. Yeah. And most entrepreneurs, if you're like me, Matt, I don't know about you, but intentionality and focus are not always my chief skills because my mind is in 100 places.
You're telling me.
Yeah.
I have 6. We were just talking before the show. I have 6 email boxes, and I knew we were talking this morning. I couldn't find the calendar invite to save my life. This was the last email box that I checked, so I'm glad. I got to figure out.
Yeah, dude.
I figure out a better way to manage that because it's getting crazy.
Yeah, I feel that to my core. So yeah, but anyway, Matt, if people like, we're kind of at that point in the show. If people want to connect with you, get to know you a little bit more, follow along, that's for that to happen.
You can find me. I'm on all the socials, probably and most prominent on LinkedIn. So just search for my name, Matt Buchalski, Buchalski. If you have questions about investing or anything on property taxes or anything like that, you can hit me up at matt@ownwell.com, and I'd be happy to talk to you.
Dude, incredible. And guys, we'll make sure that's in the show notes for you guys, but follow along, do that. Wealth of information, Matt. Like, I mean, I know you have, I can just see it come off of you. I know you have a lot to offer and give people. So guys, don't hesitate to reach out. You won't be sorry you did. But man, Matt, I know we could do this for hours on end. I'm confident on that. But as they say, all good things, right? So, but man, I appreciate you being here with us.
This was great, Brett. Thanks so much. And look, I can always tell when I've had a good time by the enthusiasm and the energy that I portray on these things. And you definitely got me going this morning. It wasn't just the coffee, I promise.
I was going to say, maybe it was just the coffee.
No, it wasn't. I promise. This is a great time, Brett. Thanks for having me.
Man, no, you're the best. I appreciate it. Well, guys, it's been a great episode. I appreciate you hanging out with us, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.